This is Colleen.
And this is Margaret.
And we're the Cousins Weird.
And we're back. Back in a New York groove. Sorry.
What's that from?
It's a song.
From what?
Something.
I've never heard that before in my life.
So we're back in the New York groove. Am I saying the wrong words?
I don't know. I've never heard it before.
Yeah,
I can't tell you because I don't know what it is.
But yeah, we're back in the pot where we've been recording.
Yes.
Like together. It's been like months.
Yes. It's been months. Margaret is driving a car.
I drove a car. I've been driving a little bit since Wednesday last week, or Thursday, actually, this past week.
With her bionic ankle.
With my metal-plated ankle, which gets fat like a sausage when I drive because it gets all swollen.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
So, I'm not quite ready to drive to work yet, but I'm driving a little bit every
practicing
day.
Driving.
I don't recommend the first time you drive to have your young children with you in the back seat that are constantly asking you questions every 5 seconds, and you have it, and I'm like, and of course, I'm like, told Jack, because Jackson, my oldest, he's going to college, and he doesn't have his license, and Ruben had to work, and I'm like, well, I'll just, you drop him off, and then I'll go pick him up after the kids get off the bus. Okay, I go, and then I'll bring his wallet. He'll have his wallet, right? And he can drive home, because he has his permit. I'm basically there, and I get a text message from him, and he's like, oh, I forgot my wallet. You have to bring it. So the first time I drove, I had to drive to JCC and home.
Oh, man.
It was rough. When I got home, I'm like, my ankle was like that.
I would have just had him drive anyway.
I should have.
I would have not cared. I'd be like, whatever, it's fine. No one's going to pull this over.
I don't think he would, though, because he's very...
Rule follower?
Yes.
Well, that's good in many ways.
Unless you want your kid to drive home and they don't.
Yeah. The only time it's not good is if they don't do what you want them to because they're following the rules so much. But...
Unless it's school rules, like homework.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't like to do that.
That's different.
He's not like a break the law kind of kid.
That's good.
We weren't really either.
I definitely, no, I was afraid. I still don't want to break the law.
No, we got a little rebellious. Like, I got a little rebellious when I went to college. With experimentation.
With fashion and hair.
Illegal substances.
Well, yeah. People do that.
And then
I didn't know because I was afraid.
Home. But I was not around my family. So, I was out there. I'm like, who's going to know?
I was still afraid.
I did what I did.
But now I'll smoke some weed. But it's legal.
It's funny. Even back then, weed was not my thing.
No?
No.
Margaret tried it. Recently, Margaret tried it.
And it did not go
well. It was too much at once.
I'm a lightweight.
Yeah.
I'm like a half a shot of alcohol at a time. I liked LSD in college. That was fun. But I went to art college, so that was kind of like...
See, I don't want any of that nonsense.
That's what people did.
No, thank you.
It was the 90s.
It was the 90s.
Those old hippies that used to follow the dead around, they made it, the kind that I bought. So it was like the real good stuff.
There you go.
Yeah. But those people are all dead now.
Right,
because they were pretty old then, they're up there at that point. So
do you guys want to hear something funny? So my mom has these geraniums in this room that we're recording in. They were outside. Yeah, they were outside. And every year she brings them in. And these geraniums are gigantic. They're beautiful. I don't even like geraniums, but these ones are cool. And every year she brings them in and they live and they go back out. She doesn't, I didn't even think they did that. I thought they just died.
I didn't either.
But these ones are hardy and she keeps them in this room because it's good sunlight and it's a little chilly.
Their stems are half an inch around.
Yeah, they're gigantic. They're old. They're 4 years old.
It's crazy.
But the best part of this story is.
Yeah.
My mom went to water them the other day and she sends me a picture. There's a tree frog living in it. That tree frog's been in here all winter long since my mom brought it in and alive and happy and thriving. And Margaret
I hate frogs.
She's afraid of frogs. She doesn't like frogs. And of all the rooms for us to be
afraid of frogs. I just don't want their sliminess on me.
They're not slimy.
They are.
They aren't. They look slimy.
No, I can't.
They don't leave a slime.
Toads are fine. I'm okay with toads. Frogs I don't like because they jump. And they jump in your face. Toads don't jump that high.
Oh.
Toads hop
Well, anyway, there's a tree frog living in here. So if Margaret screams...
It's because he crawled out of the freaking plant.
I'm pretty sure he's just chilling for now. He's not going to be coming out.
He's still in his hibernation.
Yeah. It's cold in this room, too. It's chilly in this room. So he probably liked it. It was perfect for him.
Yeah.
And he was eating whatever nutrients were in the
Any bugs that are...
Bugs and stuff in the plant, I guess. I don't know.
The plant was outside, so, like, I'm sure flies and stuff were laying their eggs and larvae and stuff in there. He's, like, munching on those.
Maybe. But it's kind of funny. Her face. I wish you could see her face.
It's not as bad as Colleen's snake face.
Oh, don't talk about that. See, I'm afraid. That's the difference. You don't like them. I am afraid. So it's totally different story.
What's the name for snake phobia?
I don't know, but I don't even want to look it up because the snake will come up if I search it. So I can't.
Search it. Wow.
So we haven't had a regular schedule because Margaret broke herself, and then I have been so busy, I don't know, but I was out of town for work, and then I was out of town for my mom's birthday, and then it was just like one thing after another, and we just haven't been able to record. So, but we're here together.
Ophidiophobia is an extreme, overwhelming fear of snakes.
Yes, ophidiophobia.
Ophidophobia.
Ophidophobia. I have a fit when I see one, so that's fitting. Get it?
Sometimes it's no pictures. Ophidio, and sometimes it's ophido.
Oh. I don't want to look at the thing in case a picture pops. I cannot even look at pictures. I can't.
You just even want to see the word snake.
I don't want to see anything. Like a snake print clothes. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why would you put that on your body? I can't. Art with them in it. Paintings. I don't care. I don't want to. I can't be around it. It's stupid. I know, but I can't help it. So, I took a deep dive for this episode. It's kind of a heavy one in a way because it's kind of sad. Well, it's sad. Let's just get started. Want to just get started? Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the Exorcism of Anneliese Michel.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yes. Hold on, I got to pull my notes up here. I should have started. Anneliese was born September 21st in 1952 in Klingenberg, Bavaria in Germany. Both her parents, Joseph and Anna, were devout Catholics, like extreme Catholics. But 4 years before Anneliese was born, her mother actually gave birth to an illegitimate daughter named Martha, which obviously, if you're in a devout Catholic family, that is not something that needs to be happening in your life. And her mother, actually, when she married her Joseph, her husband, she had to wear a black veil. They wouldn't allow her to wear white because she had to be like in mourning at her wedding. Because she had a child out of wedlock.
She was not a virgin.
Yeah. Her mother tried to atone for her sins, and I'm putting that in quotation. I was brought up Catholic, 13 years Catholic school, went to all the things. Thank God my parents were not as devout. They were devout enough, but they were not that devout. Martha, however, sadly passed away at age 8 in a surgery. So Anneliese was the eldest child at this point, and a lot of pressure was put on Anneliese because the family was very religious, and she was kind of made to feel that she had to atone for the sins of everyone around her. Oh. Like she had a lot of guilt that she felt like she had to be the person to carry it.
That sucks.
Yeah, at one point...
Her parents suck.
Yeah. At one point, she was sleep on the floor to atone for drug addicts. Like that slept on the streets.
She had to?
She would sleep on the floor. And I don't know if her parents made her sleep or she chose to. But it very psychologically, her religion affected her.
Either way,
yes.
They had an influence on her for her to feel like she needed to do that. Like there's a reason for that. So that came from somewhere.
She had 3 other sisters, and all were bound by those strict rules of an extremely religious family. Her father was a veteran, and her mother, was...
What year was this?
This was in 1952. She was born. So her father was in World War II.
Okay, yeah.
So he had some PTSD going on, and I'm sure he clung to his religion because of that. And the mother grew up very religious. So a lot of this had influence on her psyche and like her mental health and a lot of different things. In Germany.
Yeah.
Anneliese was likable, very smart. When she turned 16, things started to go a little wrong for her. She had like what they thought was a seizure. And then at night, that same night, like kind of like a blackout, like she lost consciousness.
Okay.
And then that night, she felt like she was being pinned down to her bed, like something was on top of her, and she couldn't move, and she lost control of her bladder, and she wet her bed.
She probably was a seizure, too, you know?
Yeah. About 11 months after that, everything was okay. I don't think she even told anyone what happened. And
Why would she?
Right. In August of 1969, she had the same experience happened again with the whole feeling of being pinned down, and she had convulsions in the middle of the night. So obviously at that point, she told her mother about it, and they took her to a doctor, a neurologist. He couldn't find anything wrong with her. They did an EEG on her. Things were normal. He was concerned, that she had this issue, but at this point, he didn't want to prescribe anything yet. So they were just going to kind of monitor her, see how she was doing.
It was the 60s. They didn't know.
No.
They knew more, but they still didn't know.
They didn't know. At the beginning of the next school year, she got sick with tonsillitis, and she had them removed. Well, then this progressed into pneumonia, and she had to go into the hospital for that. And then she got moved to a sanatorium in southern Bavaria. And while there in the 70s, she had another seizure and that feeling of being paralyzed and pinned down and rigid in bed. She couldn't move. The sanitarium did an EEG. Everything came back normal. But since it was the third time it happened, they decided to put her on anticonvulsants. Yes.
Yeah.
After she was put on that medicine, she started saying she was seeing grimacing demonic faces, creepy demon devil faces, basically is what she said. While she was in the sanatorium, though, she didn't tell the doctors about that because she probably didn't want them to know.
Because it's the 60s and they would have made her stay there.
Exactly. And she was a young girl and wanted to go home. So they did, they tested her one more time with the EEG. Her health was doing well. And they were like, okay, things are normal. We're going to release you. So she goes home. Because I think the anxiety of going back to school triggered another seizure. So she had another seizure. And kids in school said that she was different when she returned from after being in the sanatorium. She went through a lot. But she became even more religious than she was before. Devoutly religious, and she was just really withdrawn from people. Where before she was really likable and she had friends and stuff, she kind of withdrew from everyone. She continued to see the neurologist, and eventually he, because she was having these more often, prescribed more anticonvulsants because they said that she had epilepsy of the temporal lobe, is what they were assuming. Even though her EEGs came back normal, something was going on to affect it. So they were just assuming we're going to treat this. As school years continued, the last few years of school, she became very depressed and started having more absent seizures in school where she kind of went into a trance-like state. Not really a convulsing seizure.
Oh, one of those where they're just staring off into space.
Yes.
That's almost scarier.
Yeah. Have you ever seen someone have one of those?
No.
I saw one person one time when I can't remember what it was. It was some kind of competition in school where we did speaking like a forensics competition maybe. And which funny that who can't speak was even in that. But this girl in the middle of it had one of those in the middle of speaking. It was the scariest thing because no one knew what was going on. But her friend who was in it with her did, so that was good. But anyway, coming back around again. In June of 1972, she had a very intense seizure with convulsions. Again, neurologist does the EEG. Everything's normal. But Anneliese did not feel normal because things were going worse for her. She started going stiff, and at times her hands would turn into a claw, like cat claws.
She's
yeah.
Her muscles are tensing.
Her muscles are tensing up.
Yeah.
And she started to smell horrible smells that others weren't smelling. And she began seeing more of these demonic faces.
That's what her brain is doing something wonky.
Exactly.
Her brain is because that's affects your scent.
Mm-hmm. And they say when you have a stroke, you smell.
Your limbic system is in your brain, and that's what controls how you smell.
Mm-hmm.
All those particles that go in your nose, they go to your limbic system. Your limbic system. Oh, that's what
this is. Yeah, and that's why your memory is triggered by smell.
Yeah, and that's why essential oils are helpful because they can pass the blood-brain barrier and they go straight to your brain.
Straight to your brain.
The scent.
Now, her mother says during this time, when she passed by the statue of Virgin Mary in their living room, her hands would turn into claws. And her eyes would appear black.
Yeah.
Okay, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Sure she did. Sorry. Then she went on this pilgrimage trip to a shrine of Mary in San Damiano, Italy. with her father and other people, probably from her church, I'm assuming, went.
There's a shrine of Mary in Italy. I don't think Mary ever went to Italy.
Well, they can have a shrine of her, apparently, anywhere.
It's just like I thought they were supposed to be like...
I thought there were people saw her.
Wasn't there a place in Italy where they said they saw the Virgin Mary came to them?
Well, there's places everywhere that say that.
Yeah.
Now, Anneliese said she couldn't enter the shrine. Like, her body would not allow her in there, and she felt as if the ground burned her feet. On the way home on the bus, she ripped apart the rosary and used a voice that sounded very unnatural and masculine. After it happened, she said that she felt as if something was manipulating her and she had no control of her body. Now, an elderly friend that was with them on the trip suggested at that time, maybe she's possessed by the devil.
The devil.
The devil.
The devil. You gotta say it like in the Waterboy. The devil.
Before she went back to school in 1973, her mother got nervous because she's like, okay, last time she went to school again, she had a seizure. I want to get her tested before she goes. So they take her to the neurologist, whose name is Dr. Luthi, by the way. That's his name. I think that's
what?
Luthi.
Luthi?
L-U-T-H-Y, but he has the two little dots above the U, and I don't know how you pronounce that in German.
Okay.
Yep. This time she confided in the doctor that she was seeing devils, is what she called them. Devil faces. He was like, okay. And when he asked her, well, why do you call them devil faces? And she wouldn't respond to him. And she felt like he very much wasn't believing what she was saying. So she never wanted to go back to him again. And then when she sought out other neurologists, she just stopped mentioning the faces to anyone in the medical community and only spoke maybe like she was feeling depressed and she had bad headaches and that horrible smell she kept smelling.
The worst.
I know.
Bad smell.
I know. Now, this was like over a period of 3 to 4 years that they were seeking answers medically, and she didn't feel that she was getting the help she needed. So they decided to start looking after, thinking about the things that are happening, and she's seeing these faces, and that woman did say maybe she's possessed. Let's confide in the priests. So the first priest they went to was like, I really feel this is a medical condition and you need to continue seeking your medical treatment. Wise man.
Yes.
The next priest was Father Rodwick, and he thought, yes, I believe she may be demonically possessed. However, I'm very old and I don't know if I can handle this.
But I'm old, so, find someone else.
So I'm going to give you some contacts that I have. And one of them was Father Ernest Alt. When they reached out to him, he came to them. They told him what was going on. He started praying with Anneliese. And the more he spent time with her and the more they talked about the things she was experiencing, the more he was convinced she had demonic possession. However, he couldn't do an exorcism or anything because you needed approval from the church. It has to go through levels. So the priest has to go to the bishop, and the bishop has to get approval from the archdiocese, and it goes upward. Mm-hmm. So to be able to do the exorcism, the bishop was like, listen, we need a thorough examination of this case before I'm going to say anything. In Germany, they were very less likely to do things like that. They were like kind of rational in Germany.
Right.
They had a belief in science and like,
I think it was the time too. Like in the 70s, people were kind of moving more towards, it started in the 60s, they were moving more towards science and away from like. But
out of the European countries, even like Germany comparatively, like France and Italy were having hundreds of exorcisms. Like they just, I have an exorcism. But Germany, they were like, even when they did do exorcisms, it was very secretive. They didn't talk about it.
Right.
So they were like, we're not just going to throw this out there and say, yes, you need to do that. So while they're waiting to get the official approval, she went off to college in Würzburg. And she wanted to be an elementary school teacher. While she was there, she was experiencing nice things in life. And she met a boy named Peter, and they started dating. And you would think things were going good for her. But her issues started getting worse. She ended up going to a specialist in Würzburg. And that person officially diagnosed her with epilepsy. So they were guessing and trying to treat it, but they didn't really diagnose her with it. This is where she got diagnosed. They changed her meds, thinking that would help, but she didn't see a change. And then she started experiencing sudden paralysis in the left side of her body. And again, the EEG didn't show anything. the only comfort she was getting during this time wasn't through medicine, but was through prayer when she was with the Father Alt.
Maybe she was having mini strokes.
I don't know. At first I was like, it sounds like night paralysis.
Something.
You know, like that pinned down feeling. When her grandmother died in 1975 and her 2 other sisters had moved out of the house, her anxiety and depression got worse. Because, you know, it was big changes in her life, and her grandmother actually had lived with them, so it was a big change, you know.
I'm moving myself.
She started going really deep into depression, and she began to say that she felt like she was eternally damned.
Oh, great.
And this is going to be a quote from her college friend. She sat in a room with Anneliese and Anneliese's boyfriend, Peter. She shared that all of a sudden, Anneliese's face contracted into a real frenzy, which is like a scary face. Hideous, grimacing face. That's the only way she could describe it. Her body became completely stiff. It took half an hour before the cramp disappeared. And this type of occurrence started happening often, to the point where she would start screaming uncontrollably.
She basically was having muscle spasms, right?
Like, her muscles were like contracting but not releasing.
Right. Yikes.
It got so bad that her parents had to come bring her home. Like, she couldn't stay in school. She was having these episodes more and more. Her friends were concerned about her. Her boyfriend was concerned about her. She got home. She started not being able to sleep. She maybe would sleep an hour or 2 a night if she was lucky. And at times she would repeat over and over again, "My Jesus, forgiveness and mercy, forgiveness and mercy." She was praying all the time for release from whatever had hold of her. At one point, things were going really bad with her at home, and Father Alt, who she had been really working with and praying with, who was trying to get the approval from the bishops, was gone on vacation. So they called Father Rodwick again to come and spend time with her. And she would be bucking like a goat up and down the steps. She would tremble and become stiff for days. They also said she appeared to have super strength, and one time she squeezed an apple so hard it exploded. She would rip off her clothes and run through the house naked, feeling like she was so hot she couldn't stand it.
Yikes.
Yeah. And she would attack her parents, and one time bit her boyfriend's arm because he was coming to visit her. So obviously they were like, Father Rodwick, we need help. We don't know what's going on with her.
She was definitely troubled.
Troubled, for sure. So I'm going to read you the letter that he wrote to the state attorney's office about what he saw when he arrived at the home.
This is the
Father Rodwick, the old priest who didn't want to get involved because he was so old, but gave them the contacts too. This letter was later written to the state attorney to describe his encounter with Anneliese when he first was called back in for help. When I entered the house, Anneliese Michel lay fully dressed on the floor of the kitchen and could obviously not be addressed. I am of opinion that she was in a hypnotic state, in a kind of deep sleep. I should like to remark that such a state is a symptom of possession. I designate it as a crisis condition. First, I went to the living room with her parents and had them report to me about the condition of their daughter. Then I directed them to bring Anneliese into the room and make her sit on the sofa. Her father led her in and held her by the hand because she tried to hit her parents. She did not look emaciated. I sat down beside her and held her hands. In her trance-like state, a second personage announced itself, calling itself Judas. I had asked, "What is your name?" And the answer came, "Judas." She spoke with an altered, much lower voice. I had held her by her wrist. During the conversation, I noticed that her cramped muscles relaxed. She came to and looked at me with surprise. Apparently, it was not until then that she noticed me consciously. Subsequently, I was able to carry on an entirely reasonable conversation with her. I told her that we would not desert her and that we would help her. I was thinking of priestly aid through exorcism. Suddenly, the cramps started again. I asked her family to take her back to the kitchen. I told them that I knew enough about the case and that I had found confirmation of my surmise that we were dealing with a case of possession and that I would have to consider what could be done. When I left the house, Anneliese came out of the kitchen and slapped my cheek. So he went in. She was in a trance-like state. She was cramping muscles, and he's like, "Oh, yep, she's possessed."
Yeah, just from that.
He knew enough that... So now he's like, okay, well, I'm going to write the bishop because I just saw her say that she's Judas. And Judas Iscariot was the one that...
Oh, I know.
You know, but do they know?
Do they know? I don't know.
Do you know who Judas... He is the one that betrayed Jesus. Mm-hmm. So,
But didn't he, like, he ended up wanting...
He killed himself.
Yeah, but didn't he, like, want, like, redemption?
I think he did.
Yeah. So, is he necessarily a bad guy?
He wasn't... Without him, what did the plan... I'm quoting...
He was part of
be in place...
And he asked for forgiveness. So
right.
Isn't that the
whole point?
Point of it? Yeah.
So Father Rodwick argued that Anneliese was in fact possessed, saying that she loathed sacred objects and said the demon took over her body. And with the influence of both him and Father Alt, the bishop finally gave permission to perform the exorcism. So he appointed Father Arnold Renz, a priest nearby Klinberg, to do the exorcism. So between Father Renz and Father Alt is who actually performed it, because Father Rodwick was very old, as we said before, and didn't want to be a part of that. He just wanted to help her get what she needed, he thought. So the first of 67 exorcisms.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Was done on September 24th in 1975. At first, things were quiet. Then Anneliese started to shake more and more. She reacted violently to holy water, where a priest, her father, and Peter all had to hold her down so she wouldn't hurt herself. She tries biting them and kicking them and said the devil is sitting in her lower back. She repeats out loud, "Stop with that shit. You shit, you dirty sow." And when she sees holy water, she tells him to put that shit away. This first exorcism lasted 16 hours.
Yikes.
As the weeks went past, Anneliese said that she was possessed by 6 demons. Lucifer, Cain, Judas, Adolf Hitler, Nero, and a disgraced priest called Fleischmann, who was excommunicated by the Vatican. But I'm thinking, like, these are all people.
Right.
How can
Lucifer technically
not, well, but by Judas, Hitler.
They're all people.
Nero.
Yeah.
All Hitler. The priest are all Hitler. No, they're all people.
They're all people. So they're not necessarily, they're bad people. But even, like, Judas is, like, that's, like, probably in her brain, he was the worst of the worst. But honestly, didn't Jesus, like, when he did it, he forgave him.
Yeah.
So, like...
Forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they do, or something. Right. Doesn't he say that on the cross?
But it's for the people next to him.
Oh, I thought it was for everyone.
I know, but it was for everyone. But even like when Judas gave him up, like Jesus knew. And
he forgave him.
Yeah, and it's like, so Jesus can forgive him, and he's the one that got nailed to a cross. Why can't you?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So these, I'm quoting, quote unquote, demons made themselves known.
Colin and I both have a very long religious background.
Yes.
So even though it's like, might not be what I believe necessarily,
I know about it. Yeah. People, they said that when Hitler spoke through her mother said that she spoke in a Austrian accent. Like, she sounded like Hitler. And said people are stupid as pigs. And Anneliese would speak on what Fleischmann did to get excommunicated from the church when he got the Vatican kicked him out of apparently in the 1500s, he was a bad man. And
it'd be really bad if
right?
Because the
church was terrible.
It was, and the popes were terrible then too. They all had like wives and they killed people. They were awful.
And I didn't go into what he did because I was like, that's a whole other topic.
They didn't really have wives. They had mistresses and multiple children.
Yeah. And she would start talking about the things he did, and there was things that she would never have known about because it wasn't something she would know. So they say. I don't know. I don't know what he did. Well, and I don't know what she said.
Honestly, if the stuff was true, it had to have been written down somewhere. And if it's written down somewhere, you could read it.
Accounts stated from people that no one else heard it, but the people in that room.
Right.
So who knows
she
what she said.
She knew things that she couldn't know. Well, how do you know?
Exactly.
If you know, then she could know.
Exactly.
It's one of those, like, yeah.
Because she was speaking out as demons, the priests during the exorcisms decided to just record some of them, auto-record them.
If she was speaking as Hitler, she wouldn't have had an Austrian accent. She would have been speaking Austrian, right?
Well, she's German anyway, so I think there's like different dialects in different parts of Germany.
Okay, so
she would have had a more of an Austrian dialect. than she normally would have, as I think is what she was saying.
Well, and if that priest who was miscommunicated, was he Italian?
I don't know.
She should have been speaking Italian.
Well, that's what they said. And if she's Judas, she'd have been Arabic.
Right.
And did she speak in Arabic? There was no documentation of that. Someone had made that point in one of the things I read.
Yeah.
So over the next 9 months, she continually had exorcisms, and they recorded a lot of them. They would be done once or twice a week, up to 4 hours at a time. And they had a total of 42 hours of audio recording. Now, I've heard some of the audio recording. It's disturbing. Like, her voice is creepy as fuck. Like, it sounds like she's possessed.
I've heard some other recordings of people who are so-called possessed.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It's creepy. And I can't even listen to that stuff because it gives me the chills. Like,
your Catholic heart goes, no!
Yeah, even though I'm not practicing any longer, there's still that little bit on the back of
It's in there. You're like, you take the Catholic, you can't ever take the Catholic.
You can't get the Catholic guilt out of you, is what it is. There's a Catholic guilt that's buried in there.
It's generational.
And yeah. And like, there's a thing people talk about religious trauma, and I really believe that's a real religious trauma is a thing. Too. It can really mess people up. And it messed up this poor girl. So they have 42 hours of audio recording, and you can hear it. And I will link that so you can hear some of it. Like, there's some audio out there to listen to, which if you feel like you want to. But it is disturbing to hear. Exorcism in general is disturbing to hear. It's not, regardless of what's going on, if you believe it or not, it's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
She sounds inhuman. She's growling and hissing and swearing and on what they would say was not her normal behavior, obviously. Even though her body looked frail and she was getting weaker, she still exhibited that super strength during the exorcism. Her behavior was violent, so she had to be held down. Sometimes she was chained to chairs, restrained to the bed in some kind of way, so they could get through their rite of exorcism. Mm-hmm. So they go through the whole thing. Sometimes she would perform hundreds of genuflections during the ritual, like kneeling and getting up and kneeling and getting up. So much so that she blew out the ligaments in her knees. Like, she couldn't walk.
That's awful.
Her parents would have to hold her and lift her and put her down again to continue doing that.
That is just terrible.
Mm-hmm. Then she started eating insects. She would defecate and urinate on the floor, and at times try to lick up her own urine.
Ugh. They
said that she, at one point, stayed under the kitchen table for 2 days barking like a dog.
You talk about, this is off topic, but you talked about eating insects, and that makes me think of Renfield. And
I want to see that
I have to see that movie so bad. And I'm like, Nicolas Cage looks amazing.
I know it.
I'm trying to lighten the mood here, because this topic is going to go down real quick.
Yeah.
It's already on the down, and I'm like, okay. Let's have a little palate cleanser and talk about Renfield for a minute.
Renfield. I do want to see that.
It looks so good.
It looks really good.
I can't wait.
So obviously all these things, being restrained to a bed and then doing these genuflections and doing and having priests screaming at you and having these exorcisms done and all these things happening is taking a toll on her physical health.
Oh, yeah.
Not talking about her mental. I'm just talking about her physical health at this point. She slowly stopped eating. She wasn't eating or drinking anything. And at no point did her family or priests think, maybe we should get a doctor in here, just in case. She's obviously weak. She obviously is sick. No one thought that was something that needed to happen. Anneliese, when she was in a coherent state, would tell them she felt like she had to atone for the sins of her generation. Again, that whole mentality when she was little, I have to atone for everyone else's mistakes. My mom made mistakes. I have to atone for her sins. She'd sleep on the floor to atone for the homeless and drug addicts. Like, this mentality she had is still there. Ugh. And it's just getting worse.
Gross.
July 1st, 1976, at 23 years old, Anneliese died of starvation and dehydration. She weighed 68 pounds after a total of 11 months of no medical treatment for her epilepsy or any other condition she was having. She had 67 exorcisms during this time. And as it went on, her health deteriorated for 11 months.
And some of those exorcisms lasted for days.
And part of exorcisms, some of it is starvation. And that's part of the Catholic faith, part of your penance.
It's fasting.
Fasting.
Yeah.
So in her mind, even if they didn't do it to her, she couldn't eat because she had to atone for her sins. An autopsy of her brain.
And that's where it goes from a physical ailment to a mental ailment, and she really should have been hospitalized.
Exactly. Autopsy of her brain showed no signs of epileptic damage, even at the microscopic level. Now, there's a book called Exorcism of Anneliese, Michel, and in that it claims that if she didn't have epilepsy and they were treating her with medicine for epilepsy, and she actually had a mental illness going like the whole time, that the medication she was on could have intensified hallucinations and furthered her belief in being possessed.
Ugh.
So,
of course.
The fact that every neurologist said that she didn't have her EEGs were normal, but they still prescribed it is odd if you think about it. Mm-hmm. I know she's having these things done, and I know it was the 70s, so they probably were just like, here's some medicine. Go.
This is supposed to help with seizures, so just take this.
Yeah.
That's like I'm on a kick of watching Call the Midwife, and I've been just binge watching it for
so good.
Weeks. It's such a good show. I cry all the time. It's so good. It's so good. Mm-hmm. But it's like you cry from joy and from like
horrible
sadness,
situations, and
but it's like
really
it's sad, but it's like beautiful in its sadness. It's just a wonderful show. You should watch it. And some of the actors aren't great, but they're British, so you can forgive them.
Yeah.
But like that medicine they prescribed in the 50s and 60s to women for nausea that created limbless children.
Oh yeah.
The babies were born without arms and legs. Some of them without eyes. Terrible. I mean, it's just awful. Like they didn't test medicines all that well back then before they gave them to you.
No.
So yay.
The two priests who performed the exorcism, Father Alt and Father Renz, were arrested along with Joseph and Anna Michel on charges of negligent homicide for not getting her care. Now, her parents had her body exhumed before the trial started because a nun told them that she had a vision that Anneliese's body was incorrupt in her grave, so it hadn't decomposed. It was perfectly perfect. Mm-hmm. Like a miracle. So they were like, we must exhume it to prove that there were supernatural causes and that indeed what we did was right. But as you can guess, her body was in the natural states of decomposition when they... Mm-hmm. So that was not something that was true. Evidence during the trial showed pictures, and I'm going to share pictures of her.
Horrible.
Her teeth are chipped. Her eyes are blackened. Her body's bruised. She's covered in sores. She's emaciated. It's horrible.
It was like torture.
The defense felt that this is proof that she was under demonic possession. However, it also proves she was not being cared for.
Right.
Like showing those pictures probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. But they also played the tapes, and the tapes are really where they were trying to, because she's speaking other languages. I don't know if the languages are right.
Could have been just
because I don't speak other languages, right. So I can't. Definitely disturbing, terribly disturbing, but not evidence of a possession. I don't know. How do you prove supernatural stuff?
I know.
For real, you know?
Regardless, she still should have been in a hospital and getting fed through a tube or something.
Exactly. Yeah, so to the defense, this proved that she was possessed, but it also proves she was sick and wasn't receiving care that she needed. And experts said that Anneliese could have been saved even a week before her death with basic medical care. Basic medical care, she wouldn't have died. There's no way, obviously, that we can prove supernatural things were happening, but it is known that those who suffer epilepsy...
she could have been suffering from schizophrenia.
Well, the people that have epilepsy have greater risk of schizophrenia.
But she didn't have epilepsy.
Well, she didn't. But she could have. But they think that what she was having was dissociative personality disorder along with schizophrenia is what the signs she was showing.
Sounds like what it was.
Now, the two priests were found guilty on a lower charge of negligent manslaughter and were sentenced to 6 months in jail time. But that was dismissed, and they just had to pay a fine and 3 years probation.
Nice.
The parents were not punished. It was determined and this is in quotes, they have suffered enough, which is apparently part of German law. If you feel like the person suffered enough already, they do not get penalized for the crime. Which they probably should change that.
They probably should, because they're probably the problem. Like, it's whatever they ingrained in their daughter's brain when she was little that caused her to feel the way she felt about things.
I know. And she obviously had mental health issues. And
I'm of a mind where if there are parents who have a child who comes out as LGBTQ, gay, trans, whatever, and the parents force the child to go into like conversion therapy or disown them and the kid kills themselves, those parents should be found, especially if it's a minor,
at least some form of...
They should be held accountable.
Yeah.
For the death of that kid.
Exactly.
If their actions are what caused the kid to...
Right.
I mean, obviously it's mental illness, but as a minor and you weren't helping them, you're making it worse.
Right.
So...
Even though...
I'm very passionate about that.
I know. Well, I am too.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even though she was found guilty, or both parents were found guilty, but didn't have to have any punishment. Because they suffered enough. They truly believed they did the right thing. The priest also believed that her death was the release of the torture she was under. They said that she doesn't... Michel says that she did not regret her daughter's death. She said there was no other course of action to release her from being possessed.
It makes me sad.
Anneliese's death continues to haunt the town in where she lived, in Klingenberg, Bavaria. And the residents don't even want to talk about it because it's kind of embarrassing. But people make pilgrimages to her grave from all over to this day. Some believe her grave can purify souls, which Anneliese thought she was doing that. So
did they saint her?
Huh?
Did she become a saint or anything?
She isn't. She's an unofficial saint. The Catholic Church has not...
That's probably good.
has not made her one. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen for you to be canonized anyway. But yeah, it's unofficially. People consider her a saint. After the release of the movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is loosely, in 2005, is loosely based on that. And that's when I first heard of this, was that. Which basically talks about a trial. It's like kind of like the trial and what happened, but it's not, but it is.
Yeah.
That really made people learn about the case more, which the number of visitors to the grave increased. And her mother still lived in the same home where she died then, which is, you can see the grave from the house. And every day she would walk over and hand prayers out to all the people that came to her daughter's grave and talk to them. And she says she thanks God that Anneliese's sacrifice shows young sinners how they can devote their life to the will of God.
That's terrifying.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Young sinners. Oh, I just threw up in my mouth.
I know. And it's funny.
That makes me so
I've been
angry.
researching this all week and like reading. There's actually a book.
Depressing. That quote right there is the worst thing.
I know.
I can't even. Oh, like it's just sickening
to feel like you're just a sinner for. And some people say, when things got really bad for her was the time.
It's like basically saying, oh, her death is okay because now all these young sinners can see the error of their ways and she's helping them.
Yeah.
No, she's dead.
She's dead.
And it's terrible,
and you could
horrible.
Have saved her.
And to die of starvation, they say, is one of the most painful
things. The last
things.
words out of her mouth was, "Mother, I'm scared." And then she closed her eyes and she died.
Ugh. Yeah, it's just sickening. Ugh.
Now there's a book, and why can't I remember the name of it? Let me look it up. There's a book, one of the books I was reading had some different, stuff than everything else. But some of it, I was like, it was really much talking about how the way the parents raised her and stuff, she didn't like her parents and they didn't like her mother. And her way of acting out on that was through psychological damage they were doing to her, made her feel like she couldn't look at the rosary and she couldn't go into, because those sacred objects were part of the control. It was a whole psychological part of it. But they also talked about how abusive the mother was, where nothing else talked about that. So I didn't really want to. This one's called, The Lessons Learned, the Anneliese Michel Exorcism by John Duffy. And he talks a lot, disses the family terrible in it. terrible.
Probably deserve it.
Some of it I 100% agreed with, but some of it I was like, I don't know if some of the stuff is true because nothing else I found backed that up. So I was like, I don't really want to share it, but if you're interested in reading, it goes into her doctor's visits more, and things like that. So if you want to know more stuff about that, that was the book. I read a lot of articles. I read an article in the 70s that was written. I think it was the Washington Post I think it was the Washington Post wrote an article about when it after the trial was going on. Because that trial was huge.
Oh,
obviously. And one of the things that did come about it was the Catholic Church kind of was embarrassed because the exorcism rites that they were doing were from 1614. They hadn't changed. This is 1970s.
Yikes.
So they really made the kind of church look at their exorcism rites and try to change some of the ways they did things. They tried to change it so that how they were doing them wouldn't affect people as psychologically as they were because of the things they were saying in it. But also there was a big case because it was like religion versus science.
Yeah.
And the church was worried in a way because if it's proved that these people, that the exorcism wasn't warranted or the possession, it's proving there's not a devil. And if there's proof of no devil, then there's proof of no God. So it was really a big deal. Like people that were very religious believed that it was one way, and then people that weren't just believed it was the other. And it came founded that they were guilty, but nothing happened. So it was like just a compromise between the two ideals, I think. Because they were found guilty of neglect. But on a lesser charge, and they didn't have to serve any time or do anything for it.
Right. Because their daughter was dead?
Yeah.
Well, they suffered. Well, they made her suffer. Or they let her suffer.
Yeah.
Held a hand in her suffering. That doesn't sound like the mother's suffering now. She's handing out prayer book.
I don't even know if she's still alive. I should have looked that up to see if she was still alive.
She might not be. But,
doctors when they had doctors come to the trial and talk, they were like, what she died from, the environment she lived created, and she already maybe had some kind of mental disturbances, created an unsafe environment for her because she believed that she was possessed, and it like furthered her belief.
She had some kind of psychosis.
Yeah,
and
definitely. She
probably had some kind of
mental
schizophrenia that was fueled. It was a religious.
There is actually a medical term that someone did diagnose her with. Let me see if I can find it.
The purpose of religion is to give you levity in everyday life. Is to try to think of something like to help bring comfort to you when you need it, but it shouldn't take over your life to the point where it's the beginning and the end of everything. You know what I mean? Right. But that's just me. I find people that are overtly religious are very uncomfortable to be around.
Hyper-religiosity is a term for being extremely religious, but there's a syndrome.
And there's Religulous, which was the Bill Maher movie they made. Which I watched. I'm not gonna lie.
It's like... Gestalt-Gershwin syndrome is the name of it. Hold on.
That doesn't even sound good.
It says a syndrome encompasses a set of behavioral changes that are pronounced in a patient's diagnosis of the temporal lobe epilepsy. Manifests with personality changes, behavioral changes that include increased irritability, hyper-religiosity, and exaggerated philosophical concern. Anyway, this syndrome is pronounced in patients that have temporal lobe epilepsy. It causes...
But they said she didn't have that.
But there's no proof she had it. So it's like...
Right.
Other than the fact that she was having seizures and convulsions, but if she had...
She could have manifested that. The brain is a very weird organ that we still have to
in the book, that one book I was telling you about where he talked about how... Now, this is where I didn't know if it was true or not, because he talked about how Father Alt claimed to be psychic. And that the only reason why they got that, the only proof they had was his psychic ability that she was possessed. And that the things she was doing and saying were things that he was kind of saying to her, and then she would repeat them later on, and they'd be like, "Oh, see, she knew about that bad priest. That's what and she should have known." And he, and that the mother would rather her daughter be possessed than have a mental illness. So she went with it and started
for the time
going along with it. And if you were that type of person that was super religious, you can't blame the parent if the child's possessed. It's not their fault.
That's right.
Right. So there was a lot in that book that was interesting but I was like, I don't know how true it is because nothing else talked about any of that stuff. Because nothing else talked about him saying he was a psychic. So it was weird. Anyway, I had a lot of pauses in that. I'll have to edit out because I couldn't find things. It was a big one to research on.
It's heavy.
It's heavy. And when I do my research, I take notes and stuff. Take notes and copy and paste in my notes, quotes and such, right? And then I put things in kind of order, and I use my iPad to do that. And I had the worst time. And the battery of this kept dying. My pen kept dying. All these things were going wrong as I tried to get things done. And I was like, how? And then this morning I was like, okay, I gotta finish this up. And the pen kept dying. And I was like, what was wrong with this? And then my toilet and tub didn't drain. And I was like, I need to stop researching about exorcisms because it's coming back to get me.
Either that or your poltergeist that were in your house or heaven.
Yeah, they were making fun of me. Probably.
We'll show her.
But thankfully my toilet and tub drained now. So I'm happy about that. So that's the sad story of the exorcism of Anneliese, Michel, and it kind of makes me sick to my stomach. Yeah, and the whole thing did. And I could have went super deep with this, and there was so much more I could have talked about. But to be honest with you, I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I can't. I had to stop. I had to stop because I kept researching. And I was like, I can't read any more about it because it's so gross. And the pictures
of her, I've seen it. Yeah, it's not.
They're I'll post them. I'm going to share them because I think it's important to see.
Yeah.
That how neglectful they were to her.
Yeah.
And how sad the whole situation is. But it's not fun to see.
Let's say you believe that she was possessed. Her family still had an obligation to take care of her and make sure she ate. And if she wasn't going to eat, then you put her into a hospital where they'll shove a tube down her throat and force her nutrients. Because obviously she wasn't thinking.
No, she couldn't make those decisions.
She was unable to make decisions for herself.
They also said that they wanted to get medical help at one point, and she begged them not to. She was on the right path. And then another thing I read said that they said she fully consented to everything. But was she in her right mind to consent to anything?
I don't think she was.
She didn't. She wasn't.
She needed help, a different kind of help that they didn't give her. Mm-hmm. And she was unaware of it. And
she didn't know.
I think if they'd have gotten her...
If it happened now...
right help, she would have been fine.
Also, with it being so secretive where they couldn't talk about... they told them they could do the exorcism, but they couldn't share it with anyone that they were doing it. I almost think that if people talked about it, someone may have intervened, maybe.
Or called the police.
Or something could have happened to save her if they saw the state she was in, but no one did.
Anorexia is a disease. And it's in the realm of a mental disease.
It is a mental
health. And bulimia. And it's would you just let somebody starve themselves to death? Or would you, get them help?
And that's the thing. You could believe that she's possessed, but also see that she's starving.
Right.
And you can separate those two things.
And I'm not saying she had anorexia. I'm saying that she had some other she needed help.
And I think her body was taking such turmoil over the past 11 months that she couldn't eat. She couldn't physically eat. She had nothing left in her.
Right.
That loss of appetite is the first sign of your body, your organs.
The psychosis that she was under with her religious psychosis, because I'm pretty sure.
Right. She thought she couldn't eat.
The people they brought in there to help her were making it worse because they were feeding
into that her
belief that this was what was wrong with her.
Exactly. And
or maybe she really was. And if she really was possessed, these priests obviously were doing what they needed to be doing.
No.
Because it shouldn't take that long.
Oh, at one point it talks about them saying, oh, and the demons left her body, but then a really bad one came. But again, half of the people things they talked about weren't demons. They were people that lived.
They were dead people.
Demons and dead people aren't the same thing.
Do you think that dead people have that kind of power?
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing's weird. It was awful and sad, and I'm glad it's over with. But
she's been living in a bad mental
headspace this week with this, because it just makes me sick to my stomach. The thought of it. The poor girl. Yeah, poor Anneliese.
It's awful.
I hope she's at peace. Let's stop talking about it, because I don't want to do it anymore.
We're done.
So we were going to AcreCon.
Again, woo!
That's August 19th and 20th in Clayton in the arena. And it's a big, like a Comic-Con for our upstate, or Northern New York, I should say. Northern New York. It's super fun. Yeah. I don't know everyone that's going to be there yet. I should go look that up.
We don't know what day we're going to record. But
we're going to record live. We'll have a panel. So we'll have a live recording. We'll be in a room. And you can come and we engage with you during the recording. And it's so much fun. It was probably the most fun thing we've done as a podcast. And then we'll also have a table. We'll have some stuff to purchase at the table if you wanted to. And we want to see your faces. We think you guys are awesome. And we really appreciate you supporting us all the time by listening to our podcast. And hopefully now that Margaret's on the mend and I can get my shit together, we can be more regular again.
Yeah, now that I'm able to drive myself places, even if I'm just starting out.
Right.
That's good. That's a good thing.
So, what else? Oh, make sure you like us on Facebook and Instagram so that you know the day number one, so you know the day that we record on, because we're going to release it on there. But also, we're going to share, we share pictures from our episodes on there, and when you're following us, you know when our episodes are released, because the link goes right out to our social media. And you can watch. And then you can share us with your friends, because that's the best way you can support us is spread the word.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can send us an email at thecousinsweird@gmail.com. Or you can send us a message directly through Facebook or Instagram. Reach out to us with your funny stories. If you have any spooky stories or just want to reach out and say hi or have a request, just send it to us.
Yeah, let us know what you want to hear about. But I don't want to do an exorcism for a while, okay?
Yeah,
don't ask that. But actually, there were not to go back to this, but this also was the same time period that The Exorcist was released.
Yes.
And they say, her voice on the tape sounds like Linda Blair's voice in The Exorcist a little bit.
Yeah.
How much influence did that have on the situation? I don't know. But anyway.
They said, though, that the year that movie came out, exorcism skyrocketed.
Yes.
People thought they were possessed. And it's did people just not understand what it was before? Or was it just the movie made people want to be possessed? Or
people was well, maybe that's why I feel this way.
Right.
Maybe they felt that way and then never thought it was a demon.
It's I don't have mental illness. I'm possessed.
Exactly. But anyway, okay, we're not talking about that anymore. Why did I bring it back up again? I don't know. Oh, if you want to support our podcast, you can become a Patreon. Patreon.com/thecousinsweird. And for $1 a month, become a freaky friend. And you get a sticker and bonus episodes. And then for $5 a month, you're a terrible trender. I'm flipping everything off. I wasn't counting.
Thank you, Anthony, for being a terrible trender.
Yes. We got to get your sticker out to you.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Anthony. Your sticker's going to be there. I promise. Your bonus episodes, and then ad-free episodes, and a yearly gift from us, and a monthly chat, which we failed to do in April.
And
April's
if there
not by us. Oh, no, wait, it's still April.
It's still April.
Oh, it's still April.
It's still April.
Listen, we're a hot mess express.
And a lot of that is I broke myself, so.
Yeah. So please give us some grace in this time of transition in our lives. Because we're a hot mess right now. But we will get it together. We got our shit together. We're getting there. We're pulling it together.
Yeah.
And please still love us and listen, because we love you.
Yep.
I think that's it.
All right. Stay freaky.
Bye.
Bye.